Good evening, everybody. My name is Shraddha Ghosh. I am the lead faculty and the founder of Pixalearn. And today we are joined by Mahima Masand. And congratulations, Mahima. She has successfully completed the enrolled agents course, all the three parts, and she's on her way to applying for the enrollment now, which is the license. So, Mahima, once again, congratulations. And just thank you so much for doing it because I'm sure there are so many others who are in a similar boat that you are in. And I think that the idea behind these sessions to reach out to those people who kind of, I still remember there were moments when you had called me and you were not able to either get the dates or you were not able to write your papers. So if there is anybody in that boat, we would really want to reach out to those people and help them understand that this is doable. So before we start, can you tell us something about yourself?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. First of all, thank you for having me. And about me, so I was born and brought up in Uttar Pradesh. And in 8th standard, I moved to Delhi. And there, after I continued my studies there, I have done my graduation in BCom honors from Delhi University JDMC College. And in the last year of my graduation, I got an offer from EVA India to join their Global Mobility Services stats team. So I started working with EY right after my graduation, and I worked for 2.5 years there in Delhi. Thereafter, I got an offer from KPMG Global Services for the Bangalore location. So I'm currently located in Bangalore. I've been working with KPMG from last 3.5 years. So I have about in the US taxation. So I have about 6 years of total experience, and that 3.5 years is totally in the US taxation team. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm not wrong, which part of the tax are you really into? Are you into individual taxation, corporate, partnership?
I'm in this, so I deal with non-wage returns like 1099s and 1042s. That's it's not really not in the individual section or in the business section.
Okay.
It's just a
Okay.
bit different.
What made you sign up for the enrolled agents course? What was the idea behind it?
Yeah. So when I was with the EY in the Global Mobility Service, I was part of the India practice. So there, after working for a year or two, I realized that since it's an India practice, people who are a CA there would grow, and my growth was a bit restricted because I wasn't a CA and I didn't plan on doing CA there.
Mhm.
So I thereafter realized there that my growth is a bit restricted. So,
Mhm.
but I had plans to, but I like enjoyed working in tax since even in graduation, and tax was one of my favorite
Okay.
subjects. So I was like fine with the role, but I was just concerned about my growth. Then later on, I started looking for more opportunities when I came across with KPMG. And when I got that offer to join the US stats team, I was looking up, I was talking to people like what all the courses are there, how people grow in this domain. So then I got to know about E and CPA courses. So
Mhm.
I planned, yeah, I'll pursue either of them or maybe both
Mhm.
of them. So that's how I came across. And after that, I spoke to people after joining the KPMG. I spoke to people that what would be the better course for me, like EA or CPA. So people advise me like if you want to stay in tax, EA would be a good way to start because you can complete that course quickly in probably an year. So that's when I realized that I can okay, I should start with EA. Maybe later on I can do CPA as well. So that's how I got into this
Okay.
business.
And see, what course have you joined with Pixalearn? If I'm not wrong, you joined our add-on course, right? So you
Yes.
were already with the content provider and you were looking
Yeah.
for training, right?
Yeah.
So, and I also know that you did not attend the live classes. Most of the courses that you referred to are all recordings.
Got it.
And I
Yes.
think that is because of the timing clash that we have. But I do remember you taking one paper at a time. I think you cleared paper one, then three, and then two. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
That's the correct order. Yeah.
Okay. Which, according to you, was the most difficult paper to crack, and why? And what were you looking for in Pixelearn, and how do you think we helped you in your journey?
Okay, so obviously, I think that's an interesting story or how I came across Pixel. So when I decided that I want to do EA, I actually enrolled with, but I could not continue that because of some personal emergency at home. I faced an accident that was not a good year for me. So I could not continue my studies. In 2023, I planned on resuming my studies. So that's how then I wanted to take just the lectures part from
Mhm.
you because I already had the material. There was a bit mismatch because I was referring to the fast forward material and you were teaching from the LEM material. But I remember you gave me some demo classes just to see that will it be helpful for me. Like I remember you gave it to me. Then I went through one or two lectures that you provided to me, and it was easy. It was easy in the sense that I was able to get the concept from your classes, and then I was able to, when I was going through the fast forward material, I was easily able to apply those concepts and solve the MCQs. So that's how the whole add-on course helped me, which I took from you. And what I think you asked, what was the most difficult part?
Yeah, yeah. Which was the paper that you struggled with the most? I
Yes,
mean, there are so
actually,
many others. There are people who say that part one is a lot of volume, part three is very
yeah.
easy, part two is very conceptual and most difficult to clear.
Yeah.
What was your perception,
Yeah.
depending on your experience?
So there, I think there are two sides to it. Like in terms of preparation, I would say part two was the most difficult because it's more conceptual driven. I think it's the case for most people. But I found it interesting also. Like it's very interesting. And but when I gave the part two exam, it was like I scored the best in part two. And
I
but
also feel, it's a very conceptual paper. If you
yeah,
get the concepts, then it's really easy. But then again, it's a double-edged sword. If your concepts are an issue, then it's probably a little difficult to clear that paper.
yeah, and once I got the concept, once anyone gets the concept, I think it's becomes one of the easiest papers to clear. I think part three, even though the preparation is easy for that because the syllabus is not that much. In the exam, I actually struggle seeing the questions because it's like
I do remember, yeah, I remember there are some of my students also had come out of part three and said that it's all about common sense. So actually when we designed this course, we really wanted to help students build up that common sense. When you get, because obviously there would be questions which would be outside
yeah,
whatever you have learned, maybe fast forward, Glam or any other US content provider, there would be some questions that would catch you off guard, and the idea is to then develop that common sense that you can
yeah,
think your way through and then sit for the papers. I do remember that you struggled a lot in finding the dates. So, what was the issue there? Because
yeah.
2023, also, if you talk about, it's nearly one and a half,
Cool,
nearly
cool.
2 years. So, what was the issue there? Why did it take so long?
Yes, so in 2023 October, like July, I remember I enrolled with you, and then I studied for 2 3 exams. I was consistent at that time, and I appeared for my part one exam in October 2023. After clearing that, like it wasn't that much issue in 2023, but I wanted to take some break to appear for the next part. Then I remember, I don't know what happened. Suddenly, a lot of people started giving the exam. There were certain cancellations,
Yes.
and my then I enrolled in 2024 for my part three exam. It got cancelled twice. I got a reschedule email. One time it was cancelled and there was no reschedule email. Second time it
Mhm.
got rescheduled, and I was able to appear in August 2024 when I had in May.
Almost a gap of around a year, right?
Almost a gap of around a year.
Yeah.
It got pushed by that much time. And then after that, again, after clearing part three, it's so hard. It was so hard to find the slots. Like how
Yeah,
I
I
have
mean,
the
you
part
guys are still in a better state because you guys are in Bangalore. I've had students flying from Calcutta to Delhi to Hyderabad to Bangalore, and the dates gets just cancelled. They
yeah,
did not have any rescheduling. So yeah, I do understand that that has been a major struggle for most students who are taking these papers. And I genuinely hope that there is some kind of a solution to this, because first, the paper is very dynamic because the provisions are changing, the indexes are changing. And second, it's mostly the working professionals who are taking the paper. So, as it is, preparing for the paper with your exam, with your work and your family is a struggle. And then once you see the provisions changing, again the tax laws going for it, I mean, going completely different, then it becomes difficult year on year to hang up in the course.
yeah. It was
But
actually like I was literally desperate to give the
yeah,
last
yeah, I do
exam, and
remember you calling me. But see, the best part is you cleared all the three papers in the first shot itself. You didn't face any struggle in clearing the papers, which is really good. So, how accepted is this course in the Big Four platform? When I talk about having a USI office, or any global services center catering to the US or any other international market. How relevant do you think this course is?
So right now, what I've been seeing is, and I believe why a lot of people have started giving this EA exam is like Big Fours have started mandating this course at the manager's level. So if you have to be a manager, it is not in my team at KPMG, but I've heard it's in PwC and others. I'm not sure. I think it's selected in selected teams. Like they are mandating if you want to become a manager, you should have this EA credential. And I went for giving the exam. I also met a lot of people whom I spoke to. Some of them were working with Deloitte or PwC, and they also mentioned the same thing. But my motivation behind to pursue this was to get a foundation of what I've been doing, like of US taxation. I think it's a very good course to get a sense of
Mhm.
what you are doing. Be it if you are in partnership taxation, you are in corporate taxation or individual taxation. I think that credential will help you a lot to form
Yeah, you get a bigger picture, right? I
a
mean,
bigger
that's really
picture.
important because you're doing a very small part of
Yeah.
the bigger scheme, and that really helps you identify with what you're doing and how does it fit in the bigger scheme.
Yes.
Going ahead, you do see some advantages coming from this course, even because first of all, it's a licensed course. You do get your license, and I hope that does have value in the job market. Do you agree?
Yes,
That
I do agree. I think right now it's the hot course, I would say, and a lot of people that's why are going after it. Other than providing the necessary foundation of US taxation, I think in future years the demand is going to grow for this specific course. And it's since
how
it's
did
sorry.
no, no, sorry, you're saying something.
No, and since it's like a lot of people are going for EA because it's like you can clear that quickly compared to a US CPA, which takes longer. So I think, and it's like I think the demand is growing for this specific course, and in my firm itself, it is highly promoted. I've got the sponsorship as well for the EA course, so I think Big Fours are promoting that a lot.
And how different do you think is the perception between an enrolled agent's course and a CPA course in a big firm, considering that you are in the tax domain? Do you
Yeah,
think there's a huge difference?
so when I spoke to people in my company about which one to pursue, so people had this like they had the CPA gives you a broader perspective, like it's from the accounting, finance,
Mhm.
and tax perspective. If you want to stay in tax, I think EA is would be a
So it's
better.
equivalent, right? I
Because
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
like not
equivalent, right? You get a practice, and also it's a federal license, so that
it's a
really
better.
cuts off a lot of problems, I think, because being a CPA, we have to take state licenses for every state where you're going to sign the paperwork.
Yeah.
But for EA, do you think that makes a huge difference having a federal license versus a
Yeah,
state license?
definitely. It
Okay.
makes a huge like people can have their own independent practice in the future as well through
Okay.
yeah.
And how difficult did you find the papers? Like sitting for the three papers, how difficult do you think the course could be, considering that you're coming from a background where you've done graduation and you've had a work experience? So let's say if there's a person who's continuing with the graduation right now, wants to be placed in a big four. Like if I just rephrase the question, let's say if I take you back to your graduation days and let's say if you knew about this degree, do you think this degree would have helped you before getting placed in ENY or later in KPMG? Like, how do you rate this degree for somebody who's probably looking for entry into a big four? Do you think that might make a difference?
I think it would definitely made a difference, and I see it as a good advantage to have like in graduation if you want to join Big Four and you don't have anything certain at your plate, you don't want to do CA right now. I think this is a good course to have. It makes you employable in Big Four, and a lot of Big Fours if they see this credential like with graduation, I think they'll definitely favor that candidate. So I
Okay.
think definitely it's an advantage to have for
And
even
how difficult do you think this course is going to be if you were not into the practice? Let's say if you were not working, and then if I would have asked you to sit for this course,
Mm.
theoretically, do you think that would have made it very difficult? Because see, there's a general perception in the market that since the pass mark is very high and there is an issue about test centers, a lot of people have this perception that it might be a really difficult course to complete, even though it's an MCQ based paper. Do you think there is any logic in this, or do you think if you would have not worked, that would have been a serious disadvantage for you to clear this degree. So, in terms of complexity, how are you going to rate this clearing the papers? How difficult do you think it
Yeah.
is?
So I'll be honest, the work I do is not entirely there in the EA syllabus that I've studied. I think I'll be a good example to say, even though I've worked in US taxation, it's been almost 3 years. Whatever I worked on was not there in the EA syllabus, and everything, be it individual taxation, business, or part three, everything was new for me. I was doing it for the very first time. Yeah, I did have a basic understanding of how the tax system is since I worked in India taxation also. But if you have even a basic understanding of this like financial system, tax system, I think it's easier to relate to that, and it's nothing like you need specific experience in US taxation to clear this. I obviously, as I said, I struggled with part two because it's more conceptual. I would definitely recommend people who are pursuing to focus on the concepts. Then after that, once you have got the concept, I think the paper is definitely easier to crack. It's MCQ based, so the answer is right in front of us. We just know. We just have to select the correct one. So it's not like, I think, compared to CPA where you have different types of questions, I think EA is definitely easier. And it's just right. Even if you are a graduation student, you can focus on learning the concepts, trying to relate it what you already know. I think it would become easier.
Okay. I have had this question from so many people who call me nowadays, like people who are probably already practicing as an Indian CA, and now they think that they would want to expand and get into a practice where they want overseas client. Now, for those kind, because see, when we get inquiries, we generally get inquiries from three kinds of people. One are the grads who really want to make something, and now they are more aware of CMA, EA, and CA, and CPA, and SCA. So many choices there. And then there are a section of people who are already in Big Four who are aware of this degree, and they feel that more or less their growth can be, can be expedited if they take this degree. And the
Hmm.
third set of people who've shown interest in this degree are people who are already CAs having their Indian practice, and they're looking to extending their practice outside India and getting US clients. So
Yeah.
do you think they would have an advantage if they get a degree like an EA where they, let's say, they're already into tax practice, which is an Indian tax practice? Do you think
Yeah.
that's going to help them set up their practice?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely, I would say that they will get a good foundation of the US tax system, and after that, I think definitely they can get overseas clients through that. I think it's a
It
federal.
is a recognized degree, right?
Yeah,
If you
definitely.
are pitching a client in the US, this degree does help you establish your credibility. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. As far as the academics are concerned, what are the, so let's say if there's somebody, let's say it's a grad student or somebody from the Big Four. And I think the biggest challenge that I have faced with this is training working professionals, asking them to work out the questions, do the MCQs, take the tests. What would you advise them, taking your experience as a base? What would be the advice that you would want to give all the fellow people who are writing their papers? And imagine that they're all working professionals like you.
Yeah.
Just three key advice. Maybe the mistakes that you've made, something that you would want them to learn so that they don't start from where you are starting, where you were starting 2 years back.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I would say so definitely it's tough to manage studies along with full-time job. It's not easy, even though the course is easier, but I wouldn't say that managing with full-time job
Mhm.
it's easy. So I would say staying consistent is very important. Like even though after like taking out time, even if 1 or 2 hours after, it's very important, I would say. And secondly, reading the book. I think reading the book helps a lot because there are a lot of questions in was there in the actual paper, which even though I have done the MCQs, but if I haven't read the book, I would not have got it. Like it came from anywhere from the book. So I would say reading the book. The approach I used to follow was I used to listen to your lectures, then I used to go straight to MCQs. I
Mhm.
then after the MCQs, I knew what to focus on. Like I had a good drafts of the concept, and then I used to read the book, and it helped me because otherwise it becomes a lot more to.
Yeah, exactly. So, see, that is exactly what we're trying to do here at Pixalearn. We're trying to say that, the gap between learning and taking exams and sitting for your MCQs, that should be as less as possible.
Yeah,
Because when you're lost in just reading the material, then sitting for the then sitting for the MCQs, then that's a big gap, and that's the place where I think most people fall behind. So the idea behind these online classes were to help you just push you enough so that you understand the concept, do a lot of MCQs so that you get confidence, and then straight away do the MCQs from whichever material provider that you're with.
Hmm.
And then immediately, if you, after all of that, when you read the provisions, then those provisions become life, right? Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, this is just a law, right? It's
Yeah.
about how you've understood the provisions and how have you learned to apply these provisions. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a really good approach, because that way is when you read the book, it's completely comprehensible, and at the same time you equip yourself to think about, that extra 5-10% which comes outside practice domain. That really helps to prepare you for that.
Yeah.
Any specific learning for any paper? Let's say if I talk about part one versus part two versus part three, any specific, I mean, as an advice, if you want to give to
Yeah.
anybody who's writing this paper, any specific learning?
I think, like I said, like part three, I didn't. I think I'm done with the syllabus. I solved all the MCQs 2, 3 times. I
Mhm.
gave practice exams as well. But when I gave the actual exam, I was a bit surprised because I didn't focus much on reading the book. So I think reading the book
Mhm.
is very important. That's one thing I would definitely recommend everyone, because anything can come from anywhere. So, and in part one was this, since it was the first exam that I was given, so everything was new for me. But I think it was very interesting. I found part one and part two very interesting. So,
Yeah, actually, that's a very good word for any US paper, frankly,
yeah,
because the paper is a very applied paper, and you have to be extremely present in the paper. If you're not in the paper, then whatever efforts you would have put elsewhere also, that effort does not see and find you giving you results, right? Because the paper is an applied paper, and it's a paper which nudges you to all the wrong answers, actually.
yeah,
So many people who
yeah.
come
Like
out,
one thing, like
or
can
yeah,
miss,
and the
like,
best part is you get your result immediately, right? So that's
yeah.
a big thing.
I would say that 1 minute is very scary.
I know, but this fact that there are a lot of people who've come out of the examination hall, and when they talk to me, they tell me the first thing they say is the paper is very interesting. They
Yeah,
enjoyed writing the paper. And that is all if you clear the paper, frankly. But yeah, that's one big thing, because the paper really would want you to be in the paper to be in the examination hall, completely alert for 3 hours. And
yeah.
then when you apply that and then you succeed, there's a different thrill in the paper altogether.
All kind of emotions in just 3 hours. It's
But that's
like,
the best part, right? The biggest drawback with any like CPA especially was people have to wait for the
yeah,
results to be out. And if you're in California, then you're gone, because you get your result one day after everybody else. So that palpitation is hard. So for EA, I think that's the best thing, that you get your result immediately thereafter. And since you're not told your scores, you're not bothered about the score much unless and until you don't clear the paper,
yeah.
actually. So the idea is not about who scored the maximum. The idea is I just cleared.
I
And
agree.
considering a very high pass mark, I do think that it's a good paper to clear also, because this clearly says that you've been really consistent and you have done your job well. Otherwise, it's not easy to clear a paper like this, because
Yeah,
I think the pass mark is even higher than that of a CPA. There we
yeah.
average around 75. Here you have to average somewhere around 82, 83. So
Yeah,
it's not that easy to clear, and the paper is extremely conceptual. I've had people who've told me that, what I feel is that it's not enough just to deal about the concepts in silos. You have to connect all the concepts, because you do get questions where your understanding between one concept linked to the other concept is also questioned. So
yeah.
that's the reason when you apply all of that and then when you succeed, it gives you a different thrill altogether. You feel as if you deserve to clear the paper, right?
Yeah, definitely. I remember from all three papers when I've come out, I've called you, and that
Yeah,
feeling
and
was
every time that thrill was really noticeable, that you're really proud of yourself for having cleared the papers. That's a really good thing. And
good.
how did your office perceive? Like, what was the reaction of people around you? Were they
Yeah,
really happy?
yeah, definitely. My manager was very happy, and my leadership team was very happy. And when I cleared the last exam, I dropped an email to everyone, and they were like very thrilled about it, because a lot of people have been waiting to clear that exam, and because of the slots cancellation, they have not been able to. So this has become kind of a challenge only.
Booking that we had in India, right? Immediately 1 second the tickets go off. So I have people calling me in the middle of the night. Ticket slots are on, and people are haphazardly trying to book the slots, and then the slots are out within a couple of
Yeah, so
seconds.
I remember for my last exam routine, I was up all night. I was like in the morning, like around 11 p.m. on my office group, I got the message that the slots have opened, and
I
thereafter
remember
I tried.
you booking them and you letting us know through the WhatsApp that everybody please book. And then when the exam was rescheduled, you were like crestfallen, you were really broken. You're like, why are they doing this?
Yeah,
But yeah, I
definitely the
think that's
exam
exactly
slot booking was tougher than the exam, I would say.
yeah, and I think they're going to come up with some solution because this cannot continue. The demand for this course is growing rapidly, and there are now people who call me. At least I have to complete 2 parts in the next 5 months. At least 3 parts in the next 5 months because my promotion is due, and then I have to talk to them. Okay, we'll work this out, but you have to give me some time. And
Yeah.
coverage is very important, I feel. So yeah, I think you did a very good job. Anything that you're going to carry along with you? Something that changed in you writing these papers? Was it anything that, something changed in you as a result of you facing these papers? Because 2 years is a long time, struggling. Because at the end of the day, what I tell all my students is that, the first thing that people tell me when they clear all 4 papers of CPA or all the 3 papers of EAs, I feel relieved that I don't have to sit again. I can take a weekend break and I don't have to think about what's going to happen. I just can relax because now I don't have to study, right? So anything that you feel just writing these papers give you something that you're going to carry with you forever. Any such feeling?
The sense of the preparation gives you a lot of things like the sense of discipline, like you need to be
Mhm.
disciplined in your preparation. Those 2 or 3 months where you're preparing, you have to be consistent. Like you can't,
Mhm.
otherwise you'll just miss out on. You have to connect the dots what you're studying, of what you're looking at. It's very interesting journey, I would say. It's a
Mhm.
very good learning curve. I've definitely, my love for tats has grown after this, and
Yeah,
I
that is what most, in fact, as a faculty, I am in love with this course. I really like this course because I think the kind of depth that we teach you, along with the kind of coverage that we teach you in this course, it is phenomenal. Okay, and then when you see all these forms, and then when you're actually looking at, even if you are not, if you're not dealing with these forms, you really want to get and start working on these forms as soon as you know about them. So I also agree with you that it's a really good course if you are fond of taxation because it's a
yeah,
technical course. It's not just a course, and that's the reason probably it's a little difficult to clear also because you need to study it technically. It's not a paper that you can just take from the superficial level and clear because neither the paper is like that and neither the ask of the paper is like that.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely you should study well. And I think I've inspired a lot of people in my team also after I clicked. I was the first
Yeah,
one to
yeah, the
clear
rub
the
off effect is tremendous. When one person clears despite all the problems, the rub off effect is tremendous because then, and I have seen it happening in my CPA courses also. When one clears amidst all of these with the work and your family and your children and everything, then all those people who are taking that as an excuse, they suddenly get up. They have to start noticing. And frankly speaking, the domain that we are in, I think we have to reach a stage when we have to understand that we have to keep upskilling ourselves.
yeah,
It's no longer that we finished graduation, you've done CA, you've done CPA, and then we can relax. It's a field which is changing so much that I think because of this, that you have to keep on doing something or the other. And now it's possible. I mean, since you've done it once, I'm
yeah.
sure you would have some kind of a discipline that you're going to carry on for
Huh. For my
sufficiently long
future
time.
endeavors, definitely I'll do that. So good.
Thank you so much, Mahima. I feel so proud to have you with us, and I feel so happy that you are so happy. Okay, so wish you
Thank
all the best. Anything, any last words for our listeners?
That's all, ma'am. I think we have discussed everything. I would say, like, whosoever is pursuing right now and is struggling with the slot booking
Yeah,
and everything, I know people might have given up also because they are not able to find the
yeah, it's
slots
very
after.
frustrating. Yeah, I do remember some of my students. They have waited full night and then they could not get the slot, and that kept on happening.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah, that's a big
definitely
problem.
wish that the slots condition get resolved soon because I know it can be really frustrating. But once you get the slot, I think then you should stick to it. And because once you clear the exam, it's a very good feeling and it's a very good license to have. And definitely it will help you. I'm yet to reap the benefits of it, I would say, because I've just cleared.
Course, I'm really hopeful that it should, all these efforts should definitely help you because this is a good degree to have, and the fact that it gives you a certifying license that really adds a cherry on it. Okay,
And
so
yeah,
yeah,
that is it.
uh, that's really good. Wish you all the best, and
Thank
thank you so much for doing it.